The gym cleared out, not because practice ended, not because someone got hurt, not because coaches called it. Players walked off the court mid-drill because they couldn't handle what was happening in front of them. Day 3 of Team USA practice wasn't about basketball anymore. It was about survival. And by the end of it, only one player was still standing on that court with the same fire she walked in with. Caitlin Clark didn't just dominate. She broke them. Before I show you exactly what went down, and trust me, you're going to want to hear every single detail, smash that like button and drop a comment right now. Because what you're about to hear isn't just sports news. This is a moment that changed everything about how we talk about Team USA basketball heading into 2028. Let's set the scene. It's Saturday morning, the third day of the Team USA training camp. Everyone knows what's at stake here. The 2028 Olympics aren't just some distant dream anymore. They're real. They're coming. And every single player in that gym understands one brutal truth. Not everyone is making that roster. There are only 12 spots. And there are at least 20 players who believe, with every fiber of their being, that they deserve one of those spots. That kind of pressure, it changes people. Some players crumble under it. Some players rise. And some players, they use it as fuel to put on a performance so devastating, so ruthlessly efficient, that nobody in that building will ever forget what they witnessed. Caitlin Clark chose option 3. Now, you have to understand what the atmosphere was like heading into day 3. Days 1 and 2 had been intense. Sure, there was competition. There were battles. But there was also a kind of uneasy truce between certain players. You know exactly what I'm talking about. The narratives, the debates, the endless conversations about who's really the face of women's basketball, the marketing campaigns, the social media wars, the fans who can't have a single discussion without turning it into a battle between camps. All of that tension, it was simmering just beneath the surface. Everyone was being professional. Everyone was saying the right things to the media. Everyone was playing the game. But day 3 ripped the mask off. The moment Caitlin Clark touched the ball during the first drill, you could feel something shift. This wasn't the Caitlin from days 1 and 2, the one who was finding her rhythm, getting comfortable, reading the room. This was a different version of her entirely. No smiles, no jokes with teammates, no casual warm-up energy, just focus, just intensity, just that look in her eyes that anyone who's watched her career knows all too well. The look that says, I'm about to make everyone in this building uncomfortable. The coaches noticed it immediately. They let the drill run longer than usual. They wanted to see how far this would go. They wanted to see who could match that energy. Spoiler alert, nobody could. Caitlin brought the ball up the court. Defender pressed her high, trying to throw off her rhythm early. Bad decision. She welcomed it. One hard dribble. Step back. Way back. Logo range. Swish. The sound of that ball cutting through the net echoed through the gym. And here's the thing, nobody celebrated. Nobody cheered. Nobody ran over to give her a high five. Because everyone in that building understood something in that moment. That wasn't luck. That was a statement. And she wasn't done making it. Same spot. Same defender. Same result. Swish. This time, the bench didn't just go quiet. Some players started shaking their heads. And here's the key detail. It wasn't disbelief. It wasn't amazement. It was frustration. Because they knew what was happening. This wasn't just Caitlin Clark getting hot. This was Caitlin Clark sending a message. And that message was being delivered directly to every single person who had ever doubted her, questioned her, or tried to build a narrative that didn't include her at the top. You want to know why this footage shook everyone who saw it? Because you could feel it through the screen. You could feel the shift in energy. You could feel the exact moment when the dynamic in that gym changed from competitive practice to dominance display. And the thing about Caitlin Clark, the thing that makes her different from almost every other player in the WNBA right now, is that she doesn't just score points. She controls everything. The pace of practice started changing. It would speed up, then slow down, then explode again. And every single time, Caitlin was the one dictating the tempo. She was the one deciding when to attack. She was the one making defenders look like they were playing a completely different sport. They pressed her higher. She punished them for it. One hard dribble. Quick stop. Logo 3. Swish. At this point, you could cut the tension in that gym with a knife. Players who were once pushed as the future of women's basketball, players who got the major endorsement deals, the commercial spots, the lead-promoted narratives, they were scrambling. They were late on rotations. They were reaching on defense. They were forcing shots on offense because they felt like they had to respond. And through all of it, Caitlin was calm. Every possession felt like she was making a point. Every shot felt like a chapter in a story she's been waiting to tell for years. But here's where things get really interesting. Because as dominant as Caitlin was being, there was one player who refused to back down. One player who saw what was happening and decided she wasn't going to just let it happen without a fight. And that player was about to step onto the court and turn an already tense practice into something that would have people talking for weeks. The confrontation that's coming, it changed everything about this camp. Angel Reese checked in, and the entire gym held its breath. Because everyone knew what was about to happen. Everyone understood what this matchup meant. The history, the debates, the endless comparisons that had followed both of these players since their college days. This wasn't just basketball anymore. This was personal. Angel came onto the court with a different energy than anyone else who had been out there. Physical, determined, aggressive in a way that made it clear she wasn't there to just participate. She was there to make a statement of her own. The thing about Angel Reese that people sometimes forget is this. She doesn't back down from anyone, ever. That's not just marketing talk. That's not just social media persona. That's who she is at her core. When the spotlight gets brighter, when the pressure gets heavier, when everyone else is looking for a way to escape, Angel runs toward it. And right now, the spotlight was as bright as it had ever been. She posted up immediately, called for the ball, physical, demanding. Her body language screamed one thing: give me the rock. I'll handle this. The pass came inside. Angel caught it, made a strong move toward the basket. Caitlin was there, but Angel powered through, scored, and let out a yell that echoed through the entire gym. For a moment, just a moment, the energy shifted back. The players on the sideline who had been mentally checking out, they perked up. The teammates who had stopped asking for ball, they started moving again. It was like Angel's aggressiveness had reminded everyone that this was supposed to be a competition, not an execution. But here's the thing about Caitlin Clark that separates her from almost everyone else in women's basketball right now. She doesn't just respond to challenges. She welcomes them. Next possession. Caitlin brings the ball up. She sees Angel setting up on defense, ready to contest anything that comes her way. Their eyes meet for just a second. And in that second, you could feel it. Years of debates, countless arguments between fans, the award races, the draft comparisons, the narratives that pitted them against each other, whether they wanted it or not. All of it was hanging in the air between them. Caitlin made her move. One dribble, two dribbles. Angel stayed with her, physical, refusing to give an inch. Most players would have passed out of that situation. Most players would have looked for an easier option. Caitlin stepped back, way back, into that logo range that's become her signature. Angel contested, got a hand up, did everything right defensively. Swish, the net barely moved. That's how pure the shot was. And the gym exhaled like it had been holding its breath for 3 straight minutes. Someone on the sideline, a coach, a trainer, nobody knows exactly who, muttered loud enough for nearby people to hear. This is getting uncomfortable. That word, uncomfortable, it's the perfect word for what was happening in that practice facility. Because this wasn't the normal competitive tension you expect at a Team USA camp. This was something deeper. Something that was making people question things they thought they knew. About the pecking order in women's basketball. About who really belongs at the top of the conversation. About what happens when someone stops playing for approval and starts playing like they already own the space. Angel Reese is one of the toughest competitors in the WNBA. She's proven that time and time again. She battles every single possession. She never takes plays off. She has that championship mentality that coaches dream about. But even she was starting to feel the weight of what was happening. Not because she wasn't competing. She was competing harder than almost anyone else out there, but because no matter what she did, no matter how physical she got, no matter how much energy she brought, Caitlin just kept coming. Every stop was answered with a bucket. Every defensive stand was countered with another impossible shot. Every moment where it looked like the momentum might shift was immediately crushed by another logo three that had no business going in. This is what people don't understand about true dominance. It's not about one incredible play. It's not about a single highlight that goes viral. It's about the relentless, suffocating pressure of someone who simply will not let you breathe. Caitlin Clark was taking the oxygen out of that gym, and everyone could feel it. The drill continued. Another possession, another chance for someone to step up and match her energy. Nobody could. Teammates started doing something you almost never see at this level. They stopped asking for ball. Their eyes dropped. Their body language shifted from competitive to survival mode. You have to understand how rare this is. These are the best women's basketball players in the entire country. These are athletes who have dominated at every level they've ever played at. These are people who have won championships, broken records, and achieved things most players only dream about. And one by one, they were mentally checking out. The pressure Caitlin was creating wasn't just physical. It was psychological. She was making everyone question themselves, making them doubt their abilities, making them wonder if they really belonged on the same court as her. That's when something happened that nobody expected. Players started stepping out of drill, not officially leaving practice, not walking off court entirely, but finding ways to rotate themselves out, taking extra time between possessions, finding reasons to grab water, adjust their shoes, anything to get a break from what was happening. The coaches noticed. Of course they noticed, but they didn't stop it. And that decision to let this play out, to see exactly how far it would go, that's when the real tension exploded. Because there was one player who saw what was happening and decided enough was enough. One player who wasn't about to let this practice end without making her presence known. And what she did next would change the entire narrative of this camp. Angel Reese planted her feet at the top of the key and raised her voice. Not at Caitlin, not at any specific player, but at the situation, at what was happening, at the suffocating pressure that had taken over this practice and was squeezing the life out of everyone who wasn't named Caitlin Clark. We running or we watching? Let's go. Her voice cut through the gym like a knife. Sharp, demanding, impossible to ignore. And for a moment, just a moment, everything stopped. The players on the sideline looked up. The coaches exchanged glances. Even Caitlin paused, just for a second, acknowledging what had just happened. Because this wasn't disrespect. Anyone who watched it could tell immediately this was desperation. Angel Reese understood something that everyone else in that gym was trying to ignore. If someone didn't step up right now, if someone didn't match Caitlin's energy, didn't refuse to back down, didn't bring that same level of intensity, then this practice was over. Not officially. The clock would keep running. The drills would continue. But mentally, spiritually, everyone would have already surrendered. And Angel Reese doesn't surrender. Not to anyone. Not ever. She called for the ball again. Demanded it. Posted up hard on the block. Using every bit of her physical strength to establish position. The pass came in. She caught it, felt the defense collapse, and made her move. Strong. Physical. Determined. Score. She turned and jogged back on defense. Making eye contact with her teammates. Trying to will them back into this competition. Trying to remind them who they were. Try to show them that Caitlin Clark could be challenged if they were willing to fight. But here's what Angel didn't know. Here's what nobody in that gym fully understood yet. Caitlin wasn't just playing basketball that day. She was exorcising demons. Every doubt, every question, every debate that had ever been had about whether she belonged at the top of women's basketball. Every injury that slowed her down. Every moment when someone else got the spotlight she had earned. All of it was fuel, and Angel Reese had just poured gasoline on an already raging fire. The next possession, Caitlin came down the court with a purpose that was almost terrifying to watch. Her eyes were locked in. Her movements were precise. There was no wasted motion, no unnecessary flash. Just execution. She read the defense like it was moving in slow motion. Saw the double team coming before it even formed. Made the pass, relocated, got the ball back. One dribble. Step back. Logo range. Swish. But this time, she didn't just turn and run back on defense. This time, she held her follow-through for an extra second. Let her hand hang in the air. Let the moment breathe. It wasn't a celebration. It was a coronation. And that's when the first player walked off the court. Not stepped out. Not rotated to the back of the line. Walked off, headed straight for the bench, grabbed a towel, and sat down with her head in her hands. She wasn't injured. She wasn't sick. She was overwhelmed. The footage from this moment, if it ever fully gets released, will be studied for years. Because what happened next was a chain reaction that nobody could have predicted. Within the next 3 minutes, 2 more players followed. They found reasons. Needed water. Had to stretch. Wanted to talk to a trainer about something. But everyone in that gym knew the truth. They couldn't handle the pressure anymore. This is what separates good players from great ones. This is what separates stars from legends. Good players can dominate when things are easy, when the defense is slow, when the competition is weak, when the stakes are low. Great players, they dominate when it matters most, when everyone is watching, when the best players in the world are lined up against them, when the pressure is so thick you can barely breathe. And legends don't just dominate. They break the competition so completely that people question everything they thought they knew. Caitlin Clark was playing like a legend that day. The coaches huddled briefly. You could see them having an intense conversation on the sideline. Should they stop this? Should they give everyone a break? Should they intervene before things got worse? They made their decision. Let it play, because this exact situation was the evaluation. This was what they needed to see. Not just who could handle a normal practice. Not just who could perform when everything was comfortable. They needed to see who could survive when someone was absolutely destroying them. And right now, the answer was becoming painfully clear. The drill restarted. Fewer players on the court now. The ones who remained had a look in their eyes that was different from before. Some looked determined. Some looked scared. Some looked like they were just trying to get through this without embarrassing themselves further. Caitlin brought the ball up again. But this time, something was different. The defense wasn't just playing her straight up anymore. They were scheming, double-teaming earlier. Tried to take the ball out of her hands before she could get to her spots. Finally, a real challenge. Most players would have forced it. Most players, in the zone like Caitlin was in, would have tried to shoot over the double team. Would have let their ego override their basketball IQ. Not Caitlin. She read it instantly. Made the pass to the open teammate. Relocated to the corner. The ball swung around the perimeter. Found her again. Catch. One dribble. Pull up from 28 feet. Swish. The adjustment had taken her approximately 4 seconds to solve. This is what people who don't watch basketball closely don't understand about Caitlin Clark. Yes, the logo threes are incredible. Yes, the range is absurd. Yes, the highlights are spectacular. But what makes her truly special is her mind. She sees things before they happen. Processes information faster than almost anyone in the sport. Makes adjustment on the fly that most players couldn't make with hours of film study. And right now, she was using all of that brilliance to systematically dismantle Team USA. The whispers on the sideline were getting louder now. Players talking to each other. Coaches talking to players. Everyone trying to figure out what they had just witnessed. But there was one conversation happening that was different from all the others. One conversation that would soon become the biggest story of this entire camp. And it involved someone who wasn't even on the court. Paige Bueckers was watching from the sideline, and her expression told you everything you needed to know. She hadn't checked into this particular drill yet. She was next up, waiting for her rotation, doing what players do, stretching, staying loose, mentally preparing for her turn on the court. But somewhere along the way, The preparation had stopped, and the watching had become something else entirely. Because what Paige Bueckers was witnessing wasn't just a good practice performance. It wasn't just a player getting hot for a few possessions. It was a complete and total dismantling of some of the best players in the world, and she was about to step into the middle of it. Here's what you need to understand about Paige Bueckers and Caitlin Clark. The narratives around them have been intertwined for years now. Two generational talents. Two players who redefined what was possible at the college level. Two names that are constantly brought up together in every conversation about the future of women's basketball. But they're not rivals. Not really. They've spoken publicly about respecting each other's games. They've praised each other in interviews. There's no beef, no drama, no social media shots fired between them. Just two players who know, who have always known, that eventually they'd have to share a court. And when that happened, the whole world would be watching to see who would rise to the occasion. That moment was about 30 seconds away. The coach called out the next rotation. Paige stepped onto court, and you could feel the energy in the gym shift again. Not because of anything she did, just because of what her presence represented. This wasn't just another rotation anymore. This was the matchup everyone had been waiting for since the camp was announced. Caitlin Clark and Paige Bueckers on the same court, not as teammates running through a casual drill, but as competitors in what had become the most intense practice session anyone could remember. The sidelines suddenly got a lot more crowded. Players who had walked off earlier mysteriously found their way back. Coaches who had been having side conversations turned their full attention to the court. Phones came out against the rules, but nobody was stopping anyone. Everyone knew they were about to witness history. The drill started. Paige brought the ball up on offense first. Controlled, measured, reading the defense with those same calm eyes that had made her a legend at UConn. She wasn't rattled by what she had seen, wasn't intimidated by the carnage that had come before her. She just played her game, and her game is absolutely elite. Quick crossover, change of direction, found a gap in the defense, and got to the rim. Finished with a soft floater that barely touched the net. Bucket. Just like that, the pressure that had been suffocating everyone else seemed to ease slightly. Here was proof that Caitlin Clark could be answered. Here was evidence that the dominance wasn't absolute. Paige jogged back on defense, locked in, ready to see what Caitlin would bring. She didn't have to wait long. Caitlin caught the ball at the top of the key, made eye contact with Paige, and for just a moment, both players seemed to acknowledge what was happening. This is it. This is the moment everyone wants to see. Let's give them a show. Caitlin started her attack. 1 dribble. 2. Paige stayed with her, moving her feet, staying in front, not reaching or gambling, playing perfect defense. Caitlin pulled up, 26 feet. Paige contested. The shot went up. Rim. Out. The gym erupted, not in celebration of a miss. That would be disrespectful, but in relief. In acknowledgement that someone had finally found a way to slow down the avalanche. Paige Bueckers had just done what nobody else could do. She had forced a miss. But here's what separates Caitlin Clark from other players who get hot. Missing a shot doesn't break her rhythm. It fuels it. Next possession. Same matchup. This time Caitlin didn't even try to get to her spot. She read Paige's positioning, saw the double team coming from the weak side, and made the skip pass for an easy bucket. Message sent. You can guard me perfectly, and I'll still find a way to win the possession. The battle continued, back and forth, possession after possession. Both players refusing to back down. Both players elevating their games to levels that made everyone else on the court feel like spectators. This wasn't practice anymore. This was a preview of the future. And the future of women's basketball looked absolutely incredible. For 10 straight minutes, Caitlin and Paige went at each other with an intensity that had the coaches furiously scribbling notes. Not just about what they were seeing, but about what it meant. Because there was one question hanging over this entire camp that nobody had been willing to ask out loud. Can Caitlin Clark and Paige Bueckers play together? Not against each other. Together. The whole point of Team USA isn't to crown an individual champion. It's to build a roster that can win on the international stage. And that means figuring out how to put your best players on the court at the same time, regardless of how similar their skill sets might be. Caitlin is a point guard. Paige is a point guard. Both of them are at their best with the ball in their hands, controlling the offense, making decisions for their teammates. On paper, it shouldn't work. But what was happening on this court was telling a different story. Between the competitive possessions, something else was developing. Chemistry, understanding. Two players who were so skilled, so basketball smart, that they were starting to figure out how to complement each other in real time. One possession. Paige would handle, and Caitlin would space the floor, become a shooter, draw attention away from the ball. Next possession, they'd flip it. Caitlin handling, Paige moving without the ball, finding gaps in the defense. It was beautiful basketball, the kind of basketball that wins international tournaments. The coaches saw it. They stopped writing notes and just watched, because what they were witnessing was the answer to the question they had been asking for months. Yes, they can play together, and if we're smart, we'll build everything around the two of them. But while all of this was happening on the court, while the future of Team USA basketball was being written in real time, there was a storm brewing that nobody was paying attention to, because across the gym, sitting alone on the far end of the bench, Angel Reese was watching, and the look on her face wasn't frustration anymore. It was something else entirely, something that would explode into headlines within 48 hours. Her phone buzzed. She looked down at it, typed something quickly, put it away. Nobody noticed at the time. But that text message would become the most talked about story in the WNBA for the next 2 weeks. And it had nothing to do with basketball. Here's where the story takes a turn that nobody saw coming. While the basketball world was focused on what was happening between Caitlin Clark and Paige Bueckers, while highlight clips were being secretly recorded and shared, while coaches were reimagining their entire Olympic strategy, Angel Reese was having a completely different experience, and it would soon become impossible to ignore. Let me take you back to what was going through her mind at that moment, because understanding this context is crucial to understanding everything that happened next. Angel Reese had come into this camp with something to prove. She always does. That's who she is as a competitor. But this camp was different. This was bigger than regular season games, bigger than individual matchups. This was about cementing her legacy on the international stage. And for the first 2 days, things had been going well. She was competing. She was producing. She was showing the coaches exactly why she deserved to be part of the conversation for the Olympic roster. But day three had been a disaster. Not because she played poorly. She hadn't. Her effort was there. Her physicality was there. Her determination was there. But none of it had mattered. Because every time she made a play, Caitlin Clark answered with something bigger. Every time she thought she had established herself in the post, the ball was on the other end of the court, and another impossible three was splashing through the net. And now, sitting on that bench, watching Caitlin and Paige play basketball at a level that seemed to belong in a different dimension, Angel was processing something that athletes hate to confront. Maybe the gap was bigger than she thought. That's a brutal thing for any competitor to face, especially one who has achieved as much as Angel Reese has. National championship, Rookie of the Year conversations, record-breaking performances, a fan base that adores her. But in that gym, on that day, none of those achievements seemed to matter. The text message she received wasn't about basketball. It was about business, about her future, about decisions that were being made behind closed doors that would affect everything about her career. She replied quickly because she didn't want anyone to notice, didn't want anyone asking questions, didn't want this moment, this personal moment, to become public. But in sports, nothing stays private for long. Let's get back to the court, because what happened in the final 20 minutes of practice will become the most analyzed footage in WNBA history. The Caitlin and Paige show had captivated everyone. The chemistry they were developing in real time was undeniable. The coaches had seen enough to know that their starting backcourt for 2028 was already set, but practice wasn't over. And there were still other players who needed evaluation. The coaching staff called for a new rotation, mixed up the teams, put Caitlin and Paige on opposite sides to see how they performed separately. This was smart coaching. They had seen what the two could do together. Now they needed to understand the individual impact each player could have. And what happened next shocked everyone for a completely different reason. Without Paige on the court with her, Caitlin's dominance somehow increased. It's hard to explain unless you were there. With Paige, there was a certain balance to proceedings. Two stars sharing the spotlight, trading buckets, pushing each other to excel. Without her, Caitlin became a black hole. Every possession, every play, every single moment revolved around her. She scored at will. She created for teammates who couldn't miss because she was setting them up so perfectly. She played defense with an intensity that had offensive players second-guessing their decisions before they even made them. The score, if anyone had been keeping track, was completely lopsided, but nobody was counting points anymore. They were counting the bodies. And by bodies, I mean the players who were slowly, one by one, removing themselves from the equation. Another player walked off. Then another. This time, nobody even pretended to have an excuse. They just left, found a spot on the bench, sat down, stared at the floor. The coaching staff exchanged glances. How long do we let this go on? But something interesting was happening on the other court, on Paige's side. Her team was holding its own, not dominating, but competing, staying in the drill, fighting for every possession. And that's when the coaches realized something crucial. Paige Bueckers wasn't just a great individual player. She was a great leader. Her presence elevated everyone around her, made them believe they could compete even when things got tough. This wasn't a knock on Caitlin. Not at all. Her dominance was undeniable, but it was a different kind of impact. Caitlin broke the opposition. Paige built up her teammates. Both valuable, both necessary for a championship team. The question was, which approach was better for Team USA? Or maybe, just maybe, the answer wasn't either slash or. Maybe it was both. The drill ended. Players grabbed water, caught their breath, tried to process what they had just experienced. The gym was quieter than it had been at any point during the day. That's when the media coordinator entered with news that changed everything. There would be a press availability in 2 hours. Select players would be made available to answer questions about the camp. And the list of players selected to speak: Caitlin Clark, Paige Bueckers, Angel Reese. 3 players, 3 narratives, 3 very different experiences from what had just happened. And every single person in that building knew that the press conference was about to become a powder keg. Because how do you talk about what just happened? How do you describe the complete and total destruction that had occurred without throwing teammates under the bus? How do you answer the questions that everyone wanted to ask without creating even more controversy? Angel Reese looked at the media coordinator, then looked at the floor. She had a decision to make, and the clock was ticking. 2 hours. That's how long Angel Reese had to figure out what she was going to say, how she was going to address the media, how she was going to spin what had just happened into something that didn't destroy her narrative. 2 hours to prepare for the most difficult press conference of her career. Let me paint the picture of what those 2 hours looked like behind closed doors. Because what happened during that window is just as important as what happened on the court. Angel retreated to the players' lounge. Alone, phone in hand, scrolling through messages that were already pouring in from her team, agents, publicists, brand managers, everyone who had a stake in how this story would be told. The text messages were flying. Don't let them corner you. Redirect every Caitlin question back to team unity. Whatever you do, don't show frustration. Stay on message. Olympics. Team first. Nothing else. This is a reality of modern sports that casual fans never see. Every public appearance is managed. Every word is calculated. Every facial expression is practiced. Because one wrong answer, one moment of genuine emotion, can define your entire career. And Angel Reese? She was walking into a minefield. Meanwhile, in a different part of the facility, Caitlin Clark was going through her own preparation, but her approach was completely different. No team of handlers, no crisis management, no pre-written talking points being rehearsed. Just Caitlin, sitting by herself, drinking water, decompressing from what she had just done on the court. That's the thing about Caitlin that people either love or hate. There's no performance when the cameras are off. What you see is what you get. She doesn't play the media game like other athletes do. When she speaks her mind. When she's asked a question, she answers honestly. When she's criticized, she lets her game do the talking. It's refreshing, it's authentic, and it's absolutely terrifying for the people who try to control narratives in professional sports. Because you can't control someone who doesn't care about being controlled. The third player scheduled for the press conference, Paige Bueckers, was somewhere in between. She understood the media game, but didn't obsess over it. She had been through enough at UConn to know how to handle tough questions. But even she wasn't fully prepared for what was coming. Because the questions that would be asked in that press conference weren't going to be about basketball fundamentals. They weren't going to be about Olympic preparation, or international competition, or team chemistry. They were going to be about what everyone had just witnessed. The dominance, the walkouts, the tension, the reality that something had fundamentally shifted in the power dynamics of women's basketball. And every answer would be dissected, analyzed, and debated for weeks. The media room started filling up 45 minutes early. That never happened for practice day press conferences. Usually you get a handful of beat reporters, maybe a local TV crew, and that's it. Not today. Today, the room was packed. National outlets, ESPN, Sports Illustrated, The Athletic, local and regional press from every market that had a WNBA team, international reporters who had flown in specifically for this camp. Everyone had heard the whispers. Everyone knew something significant had happened. Everyone wanted to be the first to get the players on record. The moderator took her place at the front of the room, looking slightly overwhelmed by the turnout. This was supposed to be a routine media availability, a few softballs about how practice was going, and what players were excited about regarding the Olympics. It was about to become anything but routine. Paige Bueckers walked in first, took her seat at the table, smiled at the cameras. Professional, composed, ready. Then Caitlin Clark. Same energy she'd had all day. Focused, calm, like she had already moved past what had happened and was thinking about what came next. And finally, Angel Reese. She walked in last, sat down at the far end of the table. Her body language was different from the other two, tighter, more guarded, like she was bracing for impact. The moderator welcomed everyone, gave the standard ground rules about questions and time limits, and an open floor. The first question was predictable, lobbed at Paige, about how it felt to be back in a Team USA environment and what she was hoping to accomplish. Safe territory. Easy answer. It's an honor to be here. The talent in this camp is incredible. I'm just focused on getting better every day and doing whatever I can to help this team succeed. Textbook response. Nothing to debate. Nothing to analyze. But the room wasn't there for textbook responses. The second question came quick, directed at Caitlin. Caitlin, there are reports that today's practice was particularly intense. Can you describe what the atmosphere was like out there? Silence. Everyone leaned forward. This was the moment. Caitlin paused, thought about her answer, and then spoke. Yeah, it was intense. That's what happens when you put the best players in the country in one gym. Everyone's competing for spots. Everyone wants to prove themselves. It was good. It was exactly what you want at this level. Short, direct, not giving anything away. But the reporter wasn't satisfied. There are reports that players left the court before the drill was finished. Can you speak to that? Another pause, longer this time. And then Caitlin said something that made every person in that room catch their breath. I can only control what I can control. I came here to work. I came here to compete. Whatever else happened, you have to ask someone else about that. The implication was clear. The message was sent. And now every eye in the room turned to the one person who could provide context. Angel Reese. Her turn was coming, and everybody knew it. The question came like a missile. Angel, can you describe your experience on the court today? There's been a lot of talk about the intensity level. What was it like from your perspective? Every camera in the room pivoted toward her. Every microphone adjusted. Every reporter's pen hovered over their notepad, ready to capture whatever came next. This was the moment, the one her entire team had been preparing her for, the one that could define how the next 2 weeks of coverage would unfold. Angel Reese took a breath. You could see her processing, calculating, running through the talking points that had been drilled into her for the past 2 hours. And then she spoke. It was competitive. That's what this is. We're all fighting for spots on this roster. Everybody brought energy. Everybody was locked in. It was a good day. Safe answer. Generic. Exactly what her handlers wanted. But the reporter wasn't done. Specifically regarding Caitlin Clark's performance, she seemed to dominate for extended stretches. How do you respond to someone playing at that level? The room got quieter. This was a question everyone had been waiting for. The direct comparison. The unavoidable confrontation between narratives that had been building for years. Angel's jaw tightened. Just slightly. Barely perceptible unless you were looking for it. She played well. We all played well. It's one practice. There's a lot of camp left. I'm focused on what I can do to help this team. Another deflection. Another pivot to team-first messaging. But something was happening that the prepared talking points couldn't hide. Her energy was shifting. The frustration that had been simmering since she walked off that court was starting to leak through the professional facade. A third question. Different reporter. Same target. Angel. Do you feel like the national conversation around women's basketball has fairly represented your contributions to the sport? Or do you feel overshadowed by other players? This question was loaded. Everyone knew it. The reporter knew it. Angel knew it. The entire room held its breath. Because this wasn't really about fair representation. This was about Caitlin Clark. This was about the endless debates. This was about years of narratives that had been building toward this exact moment. Angel looked at the reporter, then at the cameras, then at the table in front of her. I think. She paused. The silence stretched. 3 seconds. 5 seconds. An eternity in press conference time. I think I've shown what I can do. I've shown it in college. I've shown it in the league. The numbers speak for themselves. The championships speak for themselves. I'm not worried about narratives. I'm worried about winning. Better answer. Stronger. Still professional. But there was an edge to her voice now that hadn't been there before. And the reporter sensed blood in the water. Do you feel like you need to prove yourself more than other players because of how the media covers the sport? Would you say the coverage of women's basketball has been balanced? How do you respond to fans who compare your game to Caitlin's game? The questions came rapid fire now, each one designed to push her closer to the edge. Each one probing for the authentic emotion that everyone knew was hiding just beneath the surface. This is the brutal reality of sports media in the modern era. They don't want prepared statements. They don't want team-first platitudes. They want conflict. They want drama. They want the moment where someone breaks. And Angel Reese was getting close. You could see it in her shoulders. The tension was visible now. Her hands were clasped together on the table, knuckles slightly whitened from the pressure. The moderator, sensing where this was heading, tried to redirect. Let's shift the page. Can you talk about? But before she could finish, another reporter cut in. Angel, one more question. There's been talk that some players left practice early today because they couldn't handle the pressure. Were you one of those players? The room gasped. Audibly, that question crossed a line that even aggressive sports media usually respects. It was accusatory. It was personal. It was designed to provoke. And it worked. Angel Reese's expression changed. The professional mask cracked, just for a moment, but long enough for everyone to see what was underneath. Anger, frustration, years of feeling undervalued and overlooked despite everything she had accomplished. I didn't leave anything. Her voice was harder now. The softness was gone. I competed. Every single possession. I didn't walk off. I didn't quit. I never quit. Check the film. Ask the coaches. I was out there fighting while other people were watching. The implication was clear. She wasn't the one who couldn't handle the pressure. Other people were. And she wanted that on the record. But here's where things got complicated. Because while Angel was defending herself, rightfully so, she was also throwing shade at teammates. Players who had walked off. Players who had mentally checked out. Players who couldn't handle what Caitlin Clark was doing. And in the world of team sports, that kind of statement doesn't go unnoticed. The room erupted with follow-up questions. Everyone trying to get clarification. Everyone trying to push her further. Everyone trying to extend the controversy for their headlines. The moderator finally stepped in, firmly this time. We're going to take a quick break. We'll return in 5 minutes. The cameras kept rolling as Angel Reese stood up from the table. Her face was a mixture of emotions, anger, frustration, maybe a hint of regret at how much she had revealed. She walked toward the exit, but before she could leave, someone stepped in front of her. Caitlin Clark. The two players stood face to face. The cameras captured every second. The microphone strained to pick up whatever was being said. And what happened in the next 30 seconds would become the most replayed moment of the entire camp. Nobody could hear what was said. The microphones weren't close enough. The ambient noise of reporters shuffling and cameras clicking drowned out the actual words. But everyone could see what was happening. Caitlin Clark had stepped directly into Angel Reese's path. Not aggressively, not confrontationally, but deliberately, purposefully, with intention that was impossible to misread. The two players stood approximately 3 feet apart, close enough to have a private conversation, far enough to maintain the appearance of professionalism. Angel's body language was defensive, arms crossed, shoulders tight, the frustration from the press conference still radiating off her in waves. Caitlin's body language was different, open, calm, that same unshakable composure she had carried all day long. For 15 seconds, they just looked at each other. No words, no movement. Just two players who represented opposite poles of a debate that had consumed women's basketball for years. Then Caitlin spoke. We don't know exactly what she said. The lip readers who analyzed the footage later had different interpretations. Some said it was an apology. Some said it was an acknowledgement of respect. Some said it was something else entirely. But we know what happened next. Angel Reese's expression changed. The hardness softened, not completely, not into warmth or friendship, but into something closer to understanding. She nodded, once, briefly, and then she walked past Caitlin and out of the room. The entire exchange lasted maybe 30 seconds. But in those 30 seconds, something shifted, not just between the two players, but in the entire narrative surrounding this camp. Because what the cameras captured wasn't rivalry. It wasn't hatred. It wasn't the bitter conflict that so many fans had projected onto these two athletes. It was respect. Complicated respect. Competitive respect. The kind of respect that only exists between people who have pushed each other to their absolute limits. The press conference resumed 5 minutes later, but the energy was completely different. The aggressive questioning had stopped. The reporters seemed almost chastened by what they had witnessed. Paige Bueckers answered a few softball questions about her recovery and her excitement for the Olympics. Caitlin gave brief responses about her training regimen and her goals for the camp. And then it was over. The players left. The reporters filed their stories. And the basketball world tried to make sense of what had just happened. But the real story, the one that would dominate headlines from next week, was just beginning to unfold. Because that text message Angel had received during practice, the one she had responded to quickly, hoping no one would notice, it wasn't just business communication. It was the beginning of a negotiation that would shake the WNBA to its core. Let me explain. Angel Reese was under contract with the Chicago Sky, a rookie contract, the kind of deal that gives players almost no leverage and teams almost total control. She couldn't leave if she wanted to. She couldn't demand a trade. She couldn't force her way to a different situation. But that didn't mean conversations weren't happening. Behind closed doors, in private meetings and encrypted text messages, Angel's representatives had been exploring options. Not for now. She was locked in for the immediate future. But for later, for when the contract expired. For when she would finally have the freedom to choose her own destiny. And one of those options had just become very interesting. A new ownership group. A franchise looking to make a splash. A situation that could potentially pair Angel Reese with a player who would maximize her strengths and minimize her weaknesses. That player? Paige Bueckers. The promotional shoot they had done together weeks earlier wasn't just marketing. It was a trial balloon, a way to gauge public reaction to the pairing, a way to plant seeds for something that might happen down the road. And the reaction had been overwhelming. Fans loved the idea, the contrast between their games, the potential chemistry, the star power of having two of the biggest names in women's basketball on the same roster. Now, sitting in that locker room, processing everything that had happened, Angel was weighing her options. Stay in Chicago, bet on herself, try to build something where she was, or start planning for a future that looked very different. The decision wasn't immediate. It couldn't be. The contract situation made that impossible. But the seed was planted, the conversation was happening, and the trajectory of multiple franchises was about to be altered by what was being discussed in those private messages. Meanwhile, the rest of the basketball world was focused on a different story entirely. The footage from practice was starting to leak. Not officially. The Team USA media department would never have allowed that. But in the age of smartphones and social media, nothing stays contained for long. Short clips, grainy quality, angles that didn't show everything but showed enough. Caitlin Clark hitting logo 3 after logo 3. Players walking off the court mid-drill. The tension that was visible even through a phone camera. By midnight, the clips had millions of views. By morning, they would have tens of millions more. And the reaction was unlike anything women's basketball had ever seen. The internet exploded, not gradually, not in the slow burn way that most sports stories develop over time. This was immediate. This was volcanic. This was the kind of viral moment that transcends sports and becomes part of the broader cultural conversation. By 10 p.m. that night, hashtag Caitlin Clark was trending #1 in the United States. By midnight, it was trending worldwide. By 6 a.m. the next morning, every major news outlet, not just sports outlets, but CNN, Fox News, BBC, everyone, was covering what happened at Team USA practice. The headlines were brutal, sensational, designed to maximize outrage and engagement. Caitlin Clark breaks Team USA. Players walk out of practice. Tension explodes at Olympic camp. Clark dominates. Teammates crumble. Angel Reese confronts media after disastrous practice performance. Is Caitlin Clark too good for her own team? The takes were flying from every direction. Hot takes, cold takes, frozen takes, thermonuclear takes. Everyone had an opinion, and everyone was screaming it into the void. The Caitlin Clark supporters were in full celebration mode. This is what happens when you put the best player in the world in a gym with everyone else. She exposed them, all the narratives, all the marketing. None of it matters when you actually have to play basketball. They said she couldn't do it at the professional level. They said the competition was too good. They said she was just a college player. Look at her now. Look at her now. Every single person who ever doubted Caitlin Clark needs to apologize, publicly, on camera. Today, the other side was equally loud. One practice. It was one practice. Y'all are acting like she won the Olympics already. Calm down. Notice how they're not showing full footage? Notice how we're only seeing clips? There's more to this story than what they're showing us. The disrespect to Angel Reese is unbelievable. She competed. She fought. She didn't quit. But somehow she's a villain? Make it make sense. And then there was the third group. The people who weren't on either side, but were absolutely loving the chaos. Women's basketball has never been more entertaining. I don't even care who's right anymore. I just want to see what happens next. This is better than any reality show on television. The drama, the tension, the confrontation at the press conference. Give me more. I've never watched a WNBA game in my life, but I'm 100% watching the next Team USA game. This storyline is incredible. That last group, the casual fans, the newcomers, the people who were being drawn to women's basketball by the drama, they were the most important audience of all. Because here's the dirty secret about professional sports that nobody likes to talk about. Controversy sells. Drama sells. Conflict sells. The WNBA had been trying for years to grow its audience. Marketing campaigns, star player promotions, social media initiatives. All of it had moved the needle somewhat. But nothing, absolutely nothing, had generated the kind of attention that this single practice session was generating. The league's social media accounts saw their engagement metrics triple overnight. Ticket sales for upcoming games spiked dramatically. Merchandise orders went through the roof. And the players at the center of it all? Their individual brands were exploding. Caitlin Clark's social media following grew by over 500,000 people in less than 12 hours. Her merchandise sales set single-day records. Her agent's phone was ringing off the hook with endorsement opportunities. Angel Reese, despite, or maybe because of, the controversial press conference, saw similar growth. Her authenticity in that moment, her refusal to back down, her defense of her own effort, it resonated with millions of people who were tired of athletes giving boring, rehearsed answers. Even Paige Bueckers, who had largely stayed out of the drama, benefited from the attention. Her calm, professional demeanor stood in contrast to the chaos around her. She looked like the mature one, the steady presence, the player you could trust when things got crazy. But while the business side of women's basketball was celebrating, the actual team was dealing with a crisis. Because when the sun came up on day 4 of Team USA camp, the coaching staff faced a serious problem. How do you run practice when half your players are emotionally devastated? How do you build team chemistry when the internet is screaming about divisions and conflict? How do you prepare for international competition when the story has become about everything except international competition? The head coach called an emergency meeting before practice started. All players required. No media. No phones. No exceptions. What was said in that room has never been officially disclosed. The players have been tight-lipped about it. The coaching staff has refused to comment beyond vague statements about productive conversations. But sources close to the team have painted a picture of what happened. It was raw. It was emotional. It was exactly what needed to happen. Players who had walked off the court were given the opportunity to explain themselves, to express their frustration, to admit that they had been overwhelmed and didn't know how to handle it. Players who had stayed were asked to show grace, to understand that everyone processes pressure differently, to remember that they were all on the same team, regardless of what the internet was saying. And Caitlin Clark? She stood up and spoke. What she said in that moment, in that closed room with no cameras and no reporters, is the real story of this camp, the moment that actually defined what Team USA would become. And when you hear what she told her teammates, everything about this situation changes. Caitlin Clark stood up slowly. The room was silent, completely silent. The kind of silence that only exists when everyone knows something important is about to happen. All eyes were on her. Teammates who had walked off the court. Teammates who had stayed. Coaches who were trying to hold this fractured group together. Everyone waiting to see what the player at the center of the storm would say. She didn't have notes. She didn't have a prepared speech. She just spoke from somewhere deep inside herself. I owe you all an apology. The words landed like a bomb. Nobody expected that. Not the coaches. Not the players. Not anyone who had watched what happened the day before. Caitlin Clark had dominated. She had been the best player on the court by a margin that was almost embarrassing. She had done nothing wrong. Why was she apologizing? She continued, not for how I played. I'm never going to apologize for competing. That's who I am. That's who I've always been. If I stop being that person, I stop being useful to this team. Heads nodded slightly. That made sense. That was the Caitlin they all knew. But I need to apologize for something else. For not seeing what was happening. For being so locked in on my own performance that I didn't notice how it was affecting everyone else. She paused, looked around the room, made eye contact with specific players, the ones who had walked off, the ones who had struggled the most. I know what it feels like to be overwhelmed. I know what it feels like when someone is just better than you on a given day, and there's nothing you can do about it. I've been on that side too. Maybe not recently, maybe not in a while, but I remember. Her voice softened. The edge that had been there all week was gone. This was a different Caitlin. Vulnerable, human, real. When I was younger, there were players who made me feel like I didn't belong, who made me question everything about my game, who made me want to walk off the court and never come back. The room was completely still. Nobody had ever heard her talk like this before. I didn't walk off, but I wanted to. So I understand. I understand more than you might think. She took a breath, gathered herself. But here's the thing. Those moments when someone makes you feel small, they're the most important moments of your career. Because you have a choice. You can let it break you, or you can let it build you. Now her voice was getting stronger. The fire was returning. Every single person in this room is here for a reason. You're not here by accident. You're not here because someone felt sorry for you. You're here because you earned it, because you're one of the best players in the entire world. She looked directly at Angel Reese. Angel, you competed harder than almost anyone out there yesterday. You didn't quit. You didn't give up. You kept coming. That's what champions do. Don't let anyone tell you different. Don't let the internet tell you different. I see you. We all see you. Angel's expression shifted. The hardness that had been there since the press conference started to crack. Not completely, but enough. Caitlin continued, addressing others in the room. And everyone who walked off, I'm not here to judge you. I'm not here to make you feel bad. But I am here to tell you something important. She stepped forward. Her presence filled the room. This team is going to face moments that are way harder than what happened yesterday. We're going to play against countries that want to beat us more than anything in the world. We're going to face pressure that makes yesterday look like a warm-up. And when those moments come, we need everyone. Everyone. Her voice rose. I can't win the Olympics by myself. Paige can't win the Olympics by herself. Nobody in this room can do it alone. We need each other. We need trust. We need to know that when things get hard, when someone is dominating us, when the pressure is crushing, we're going to stand together. She looked around the room one more time. So here's what I'm asking. I'm asking for a reset. I'm asking for everyone to leave yesterday behind. The footage, the tweets, the headlines, none of it matters. What matters is what we do from this moment forward. The room was still silent, but the energy had completely changed. The tension that had been suffocating, everyone was starting to lift. The head coach stood up. Thank you, Caitlin. That took courage. Real leadership isn't about what you do when things are easy. It's about what you do in moments like this. She turned to address the entire team. Today, we start over. Clean slate. No baggage. We're going to run through fundamental drills. We're going to work on team concepts. And we're going to remember why we're all here, to represent our country and bring home a gold medal. Players started nodding. The mood was shifting. Hope was returning. But before practice could start, one more thing needed to happen. Angel Reese stood up. The room tense again. Everyone remembered the press conference. Everyone knew how frustrated she had been. Everyone wondered if she was about to make things worse. She walked toward Caitlin, stopped directly in front of her. For a moment, nobody breathed. And then Angel did something that nobody expected. She extended her hand. We good. 2 words. That's all it took. Caitlin grabbed her hand, shook it firmly, looked her directly in the eyes. We're good. The room exhaled. Someone started clapping, then someone else, then everyone. The moment was over, but what it represented was just beginning, because from that handshake forward, Team USA became something different, something unified, something dangerous. And what happened over the next few days would prove exactly how dangerous they could be. Day 4 practice looked nothing like day 3. The energy was completely different. The tension that had been suffocating, everyone was replaced by something else. Something lighter. Something more productive. But don't mistake lighter for easier. The coaches came out with a plan. They had seen what happened when individual competition took over. Now, they wanted to see what happened when everyone played together. The drills changed. Instead of one-on-one battles and isolation exercises, Everything became team-focused. 5-on-5 sets, offensive systems, defensive rotations, the kind of basketball that actually wins international tournaments. And something beautiful started to emerge. Caitlin Clark, the same player who had dominated so completely the day before, transformed her game, not diminished it, transformed it. Instead of hunting shots from the logo, she was hunting passes. Instead of breaking down defenders for her own buckets, she was breaking them down to create opportunities for teammates. The same basketball IQ that made her unstoppable as a scorer made her equally unstoppable as a facilitator. The ball moved, players cut, screens were set, shots fell, and the players who had struggled the day before, they started to find their rhythm. Because here's what Caitlin understood that many great scorers never figure out. The best way to elevate yourself is to elevate everyone around you. When teammates trust that they'll get the ball in good positions, they play harder on defense. They set better screens. They run the floor faster. They compete with more energy because they know their effort will be rewarded. That's what was happening now. The same players who had walked off the court in frustration were diving for loose balls. The same players who had mentally checked out were communicating on every possession. The transformation was remarkable. Paige Bueckers slid seamlessly into the flow. Her game had always been about making others better. That's what had made her a legend at UConn. Now, playing alongside Caitlin instead of against her, the two guards created a synergy that was almost unfair. When Caitlin drew the double team, Paige was in the perfect position to receive the pass and make a play. When Paige attacked the paint, Caitlin was spotted up on the perimeter, ready to punish any defender who left her. They read each other instinctively, anticipated movements before they happened, communicated without words. The coaches watched with barely concealed excitement. This was exactly what they had hoped for when they put this roster together. This was a potential that had been hiding underneath all the drama and narratives. Two generational talents, playing together instead of being pitted against each other. It was beautiful basketball, but the real surprise of day 4 wasn't the backcourt connection. It was Angel Reese. Something had unlocked in her during that morning meeting. The frustration was gone. The chip on her shoulder had been redirected. Instead of feeling like she needed to prove herself against her teammates, she focused on proving herself with them. Her physicality in the post became an asset for the entire team. She set bone-crushing screens that freed up shooters. She grabbed offensive rebounds and kicked them out for second-chance opportunities. She defended the paint with an intensity that made driving lanes disappear. And when the ball found her in scoring position, she finished every single time. This was the Angel Reese that had won a national championship, the one who dominated on the biggest stage, the one who had been hiding behind frustration and narrative pressure for the past 24 hours. She was back. The coaches started experimenting with lineups, different combinations of players, different tactical approaches. One lineup in particular caught everyone's attention. Caitlin Clark at point guard, Paige Bueckers at shooting guard, a defensive specialist at small forward, a stretch four who could shoot from the perimeter, and Angel Reese at center. This lineup was devastating. Caitlin ran the offense with precision. Paige provided secondary creation and elite shooting. The defensive players caused havoc on that end of the floor, and Angel anchored everything in the paint. Against this lineup, nothing worked. The defense was smothering. The offense was unstoppable. Every possession felt like an adventure for whoever was trying to guard them. The coaches kept the lineup together for an extended stretch. 20 minutes of running against the reserves. By the end of it, the reserves looked exhausted, overwhelmed, like they had just survived something traumatic. But they weren't frustrated like the day before. They were inspired, because watching this lineup play, watching what was possible when everyone committed to the same vision, it showed everyone what Team USA could become, not just a collection of individual stars trying to coexist, a unit, a machine, a force that could dominate any competition in the world. After practice, the head coach pulled the group together. What you showed today, that's what we've been looking for. That's what we knew this group was capable of. I'm proud of how everyone responded after yesterday. That shows character. That shows maturity. That shows why you deserve to be here. She looked around the room. But I want to be clear about something. What happened yesterday isn't behind us. It's part of our story now. And stories like that can go one of two ways. They can define you negatively, become the thing people remember, or they can become the turning point. The moment everything changed, her voice hardened. The choice is yours. Every day from now until the Olympics, you get to decide which version of this story you want to tell. The players nodded. The message was received. But while the team was finding its footing, the outside world was still spinning, because the footage from day 3 was still circulating. The takes were still flying. The debates were still raging. And someone was about to throw gasoline on the fire. The tweet came at 11:47 p.m. from a verified account with over 2 million followers. A former WNBA player who had been retired for 3 years, but remained one of the most vocal voices in women's basketball media. The tweet was short, direct, devastating. Just spoke with someone inside the camp. What's being reported publicly is only 10% of what actually happened. The real story is way worse. Caitlin Clark has made enemies for life. This team is fractured beyond repair. Gold medal? They'll be lucky to get bronze. Within minutes, the tweet had thousands of retweets. Within an hour, it had tens of thousands. By morning, it would have over 1 million impressions and be the subject of debate on every sports talk show in the country. The timing was brutal. Just as the team was starting to heal, just as they were finding their rhythm, just as day 4 had shown what was possible, this bomb dropped, and the reaction was immediate. The Caitlin Clark defenders went into full attack mode. Who is this source? Name them or shut up. This is jealousy, pure and simple. Former players who can't handle that someone is bigger than they ever were. Notice how she says someone inside the camp, but won't give any specifics? That's because it's made up. The other side piled on just as hard. I've been saying this all along. The Caitlin Clark worship is blinding people to reality. She's toxic. This proves it. Enemies for life. Let that sink in. This isn't about one practice. This is about who she is as a person. The truth is finally coming out. Watch how fast the defenders try to bury the story. The discourse became toxic within hours. Death threats were sent to the former player who posted the tweet. Counter threats were sent to people who defended Caitlin. Social media became a battlefield where nuance went to die. And inside the Team USA facility, the coaching staff was scrambling. They had worked so hard to create a bubble, to protect the players from the outside noise, to keep everyone focused on basketball and nothing else. That bubble had just been popped. The head coach called an emergency meeting with her assistants at 6 a.m. Someone talked. Someone inside this camp leaked information to the press. We need to find out who, and we need to handle it immediately. The investigation started that morning. Every staff member was questioned. Security footage was reviewed. Phone records were examined. For staff, not players, as player privacy was protected by union agreements. But finding the leak wasn't the only problem. The bigger issue was the players. Because even though coaches could try to limit media access, they couldn't take away smartphones. They couldn't prevent players from seeing what was being said about them online. And by the time day 5 practice started, everyone had seen the tweet. The energy in the gym was different again. Not the explosive tension of day 3. Not the hopeful unity of day 4. Something else. Suspicion. Players were looking at each other differently. Wondering who had talked. Wondering what else had been shared. Wondering if the person next to them was the source of the leak. Trust. The thing they had worked so hard to build just 24 hours earlier was eroding in real time. The coaches tried to push through it. Started the drills. Kept things moving. Hoped that the act of playing basketball together would overcome the doubts creeping into everyone's minds. It didn't work. The passes were tentative. The communication was minimal. The chemistry that had been so electric the day before was nowhere to be found. Caitlin Clark noticed it immediately. She could feel the energy directed at her. The sideways glances. The way certain players avoided making eye contact. The subtle distance that was forming between her and some of her teammates. The tweet had done its job. It had planted a seed of doubt, and that seed was growing faster than anyone could predict it. During a water break, Caitlin approached the head coach. "We need to address this. Right now. If we don't, it's going to get worse." The coach nodded. She knew Caitlin was right. Avoiding the elephant in the room wasn't working. She blew her whistle, called everyone in. "Stop. Everybody stop. We need to talk about what's happening." The players gathered in a circle. The tension was visible on every face. "I know you've all seen what's being said online. I know you're wondering who talked. I know you're questioning whether you can trust the people standing next to you." She paused. Let the words sink in. "I'm going to tell you something, and I need you to really hear it. What happens on the internet does not determine what happens in this gym. Tweets do not win basketball games. Viral posts do not earn roster spots. The only thing that matters is what we do when we're together." She looked around the circle. "Someone may have talked. We're looking into it. But right now, in this moment, I'm asking you to make a choice. You can let the outside noise destroy what we're building, or you can block it out and focus on why we're here." The players were silent, processing. "I can't make that choice for you. Nobody can. It has to come from inside. So I'm going to ask you directly, are you in or are you out?" No response. The silence stretched. And then from the back of the group, a voice spoke up. "Angel Reese, I'm in." All eyes turned to her. Given everything that happened, the press conference, the frustration, the rumors about her future, her voice carried enormous weight. "I'm in," she repeated. "I don't care about tweets. I don't care about who said what. I care about winning. And we can't win if we're fighting each other instead of fighting together." She stepped forward. "So, yeah, I'm in. All the way, whatever it takes." The room shifted. Her words had broken through the suspicion, at least temporarily. One by one, other players spoke up. "I'm in. I'm in. I'm in." Caitlin was the last to speak. "I'm in, and I promise you, every single person in the circle, I will never do anything to betray this team. Never. You have my word." The circle tightened. Hands reached in. A collective moment of commitment. But even as the team tried to hold itself together, the outside world kept spinning, and the next bombshell was about to drop. The news broke during lunch. ESPN's lead WNBA reporter posted an exclusive story that sent shockwaves through the basketball world. The headline was simple but explosive. "Angel Reese in trade discussions. Multiple teams interested." The article detailed everything. The behind-the-scenes conversations, the text messages during practice, the exploratory talks between agents and front offices, the promotional shoot with Paige Bueckers that was more than just marketing. All of it was now public. The story cited multiple sources with direct knowledge of the situation and painted a picture of a player who was actively exploring her options despite being locked into a rookie contract. The Chicago Sky released a statement within hours. "Angel Reese is a valued member of our organization. We are aware of speculation regarding her future, but have no comment on private contractual matters. We remain focused on building a championship-caliber team." Translation, we're not denying it. Angel's representatives issued their own statement. Angel Reese is fully committed to honoring her current contract. Any discussions about her future are normal course of business in professional sports. She remains focused on Team USA and representing her country. Translation, we're definitely talking to other teams. The timing couldn't have been worse. Just as the team was recovering from the tweet controversy, just as they had recommitted to each other, just as day 5 practice was finally finding a rhythm. Now this. The coaches face an impossible decision. Do they address it publicly? Do they ignore it and hope it goes away? Do they confront Angel directly? They chose option 3. During the afternoon break, the head coach pulled Angel aside for a private conversation. What was said between them has never been made public. But the meeting lasted nearly 30 minutes. When Angel returned to the team, her expression was unreadable. The other players watched her carefully. Everyone had seen the story by now. Everyone was wondering what it meant for the team. Everyone was calculating how this affected the dynamics they had been trying to build. Caitlin Clark made a decision in that moment. She walked directly over to Angel, not secretly, not subtly, in full view of everyone. "Hey, you good?" Angel looked at her, surprised by the directness, surprised that Caitlin was the one approaching her, surprised by a lot of things. "I'm fine." "Cool, because I need you focused. We all need you focused. Whatever's happening with your future, that's your business. But right now in this gym, I need you present. Can you do that?" It was a challenge, but not a hostile one. It was the kind of challenge that competitors understand. The kind that says, "I respect you enough to demand your best." Angel held Caitlin's gaze for a long moment. "Yeah, I can do that. Good. Let's work." And just like that, they returned to practice. No drama, no extended conversation, no public display of conflict or reconciliation. Just two professionals who understood what needed to happen. The rest of day 5 was productive, not spectacular, not the breakthrough energy of day 4, but solid, focused, professional. Players ran through offensive sets with precision. Defensive rotations were crisp. The coaching staff finally got to work on the specific strategies they wanted to implement for international competition. It was the kind of practice that doesn't make headlines but wins championships. After practice ended, something unusual happened. A group of players decided to stay late, not for extra individual work. That was common, but for group work. Voluntary team sessions that nobody had organized or required. Caitlin was there. Paige was there. Angel was there. Several other key players joined them. They ran through plays without coaches watching, talked through concepts on the whiteboard, discussed what was working and what wasn't. This was organic leadership, the kind that can't be manufactured or demanded, the kind that only emerges when players truly commit to something bigger than themselves. The coaches watched from a distance, tried not to interfere. What they were witnessing was exactly what they had hoped for when they assembled this roster. A team was being born, not just a collection of talented individuals, not just a group of stars trying to coexist. An actual team, with chemistry, with trust, with shared purpose. But the story of this camp wasn't finished yet, because while the players were bonding in the gym, something was happening in the front offices that would change everything. The Team USA Selection Committee was meeting behind closed doors, reviewing the footage from the first 5 days, making preliminary decisions about who would make the final roster. And one of their conclusions was about to shock the basketball world. They were considering something unprecedented, something that had never been done before in women's basketball history, a decision that would redefine what this team could become. The announcement was scheduled for the following morning, and when it dropped, nothing would ever be the same. The announcement came at 9 a.m. sharp. Every player was gathered in the main meeting room. Coaches lined the walls. Media was not permitted. This was internal only. Whatever was about to be said would eventually leak, but the committee wanted the players to hear it first. The head of the selection committee stepped to the podium. She was a legendary figure in women's basketball. Multiple Olympic gold medals as a player, championship rings as a coach, the kind of resume that commanded immediate respect from everyone in the room. She didn't waste time with pleasantries. "Thank you all for your commitment over the past 5 days. What we've witnessed has been extraordinary. The talent in this room is unlike anything we've ever assembled. The competition has been fierce. The growth has been remarkable." She paused, looked around the room. "We've made some preliminary decisions about roster construction. These are not final. There's still time for evaluation, but we want to be transparent about our thinking." The tension in the room was suffocating. Every player knew that what came next could define their careers. First, we are recommending that the final roster include both Caitlin Clark and Paige Bueckers as co-starting guards. Murmurs rippled through the room. This wasn't a surprise. Everyone had seen the chemistry between them, but hearing it officially confirmed still carried weight. Second, we are recommending that Angel Reese be included on the roster as a primary frontcourt option. More murmurs. Given everything that had happened, the trade rumors, the press conference controversy, the tension with other players. This was a statement of faith in Angel's abilities and character. Angel's expression remained neutral, professional, but you could see something shift behind her eyes. Relief, maybe, validation. Third, and this is where things become unprecedented. The room went completely silent. We are recommending an expanded leadership structure for this team. Rather than designating a single captain, we are proposing a 3-player leadership council. She looked directly at the players she was about to name. Caitlin Clark, Paige Bueckers, Angel Reese. The room erupted, not in chaos and shock. Players looked at each other with wide eyes. Coaches exchanged glances. This was completely unexpected. The committee head raised her hand for silence. Let me explain our reasoning. She stepped away from the podium and moved closer to the players. What happened on day 3 of this camp was a crisis. There's no other word for it. The tension, the walkouts, the aftermath. It threatened to destroy everything we were building before we even got started. She paused. But what happened on days 4 and 5 was something else entirely. Recovery, unity, leadership. And that leadership didn't come from coaches. It came from players. She looked at Caitlin. Caitlin, your speech in the team meeting showed maturity that we didn't know you had. You could have let your dominance speak for itself. Instead, you chose to lift others up. That's what great leaders do. She turned to Paige. Paige, your steadiness throughout this entire process has been invaluable. When everyone else was caught up in drama and narratives, you stayed focused on basketball. You showed everyone what professionalism looks like. Finally, she faced Angel. Angel, you had every reason to walk away from this situation. The trade rumors, the media pressure, the feeling of being undervalued. But instead of retreating, you stepped up, you recommitted. You showed that you're willing to put the team first even when it's hard. She addressed all 3 together. We believe that this team needs all 3 of you leading, not competing for the spotlight, not fighting over narratives, leading together. Is that something you're willing to do? The question hung in the air. This was unprecedented. In the history of USA basketball, there had never been a 3-player leadership council. There had never been an official acknowledgement that leadership needed to be shared among players who had been portrayed as rivals. It was a risk, a huge one. If it worked, it could create the most unified Team USA roster in history. If it failed, it could tear the team apart more completely than Day 3 ever did. Caitlin spoke first. I'm willing. Paige followed immediately. I'm in. All eyes turned to Angel. This was her moment, the moment that would define how history remembered her role on this team. She could accept and become part of something special, or she could decline and create a rift that might never heal. The room waited. Angel looked at Caitlin, then at Paige, then at the selection committee head. I have one question. Go ahead. Is this real? Or is this some kind of PR move to make the team look unified when it's not? The directness caught some people off guard, but the committee head didn't flinch. It's real. We're asking you 3 to actually lead, to make decisions together, to represent this team in public and private settings, to be the face of what we're building. If you're not willing to do that authentically, tell us now. Angel nodded slowly. Then, yeah, I'm willing. The room exhaled. Players started clapping. The tension that had been building since the announcement began finally released. But the committee head wasn't finished. There's one more announcement, and this one is going to require all 3 of you to demonstrate that leadership immediately. She pulled out a folder. In 48 hours, we're holding a public scrimmage, full media access, live broadcast. The first time the world will see this team play together. She opened the folder, and we just learned that attendance requests have exceeded capacity by a factor of 10. The interest in this team, because of everything that happened, is unprecedented. Everyone wants to see if you can actually play together. She looked at the 3 new co-captains. The world is watching. What are you going to show them? The question wasn't rhetorical. It was a challenge, and the answer would be written on the court in 48 hours. 48 hours later, the gym was packed beyond capacity. Every seat was filled. Standing room only along the walls. Media members crammed into every available corner with cameras, microphones, and notebooks. The energy in the building was electric. The kind of atmosphere you usually only see during playoff games or championship moments. But this was just a scrimmage. Except it wasn't just a scrimmage. Everyone knew it. The players knew it. The coaches knew it. The thousands of fans who had fought for tickets knew it. The millions more who were watching the live broadcast from home knew it. This was a referendum on Caitlin Clark, on Angel Reese, on Paige Bueckers, on whether three players who had been pitted against each other by media narratives could actually coexist, on whether the drama of the past week had been a death knell or a turning point. The world was about to get its answer. The three co-captains walked onto the court together for warm-ups. Side by side, united front, a visual statement that required no words. The crowd reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Cheers erupted from every section. Camera flashes exploded like lightning. The roar was so loud that players couldn't hear each other, even when standing inches apart. This was unprecedented attention for women's basketball. Not just increased interest, not just modest growth. This was a cultural moment, the kind that transcends sports and becomes part of the broader national conversation. And it had all started because of a practice session that went off the rails. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The crisis had become the catalyst. The conflict had created the interest. The drama had drawn eyeballs that years of marketing campaigns had failed to attract. Now came the hard part, delivering on the promise. The scrimmage format was simple. Team White versus Team Blue. The roster split roughly in half. Caitlin and Paige would start together on Team White. Angel would anchor Team Blue. This was intentional. The coaches wanted to see if the co-captains could compete against each other with the same intensity they had shown in practice, but without the toxicity that had poisoned day 3. Could they be rivals and partners simultaneously? Could they push each other to excellence while maintaining the unity they had built? The answer would determine everything about this team's future. The referee blew the whistle. The ball was tipped, and the most watched scrimmage in women's basketball history began. Team White got the ball first. Caitlin brought it up the court, surveying the defense, processing information at that superhuman speed that had made her famous. Angel was waiting in the paint, physical, ready, daring Caitlin to try something. Caitlin smiled, not a mocking smile, a competitor's smile, the kind that says, "I respect you, and I'm about to try to destroy you anyway." She attacked, quick crossover, burst toward the lane. Angel stepped up to challenge. At the last possible moment, Caitlin dropped the pass to the rolling big. Easy bucket. The crowd erupted. First blood to Team White. But Angel Reese doesn't back down. Ever. Next possession. Team Blue worked the ball inside. Angel caught in the post, felt the double team coming, and made a beautiful read. Kick out to the open shooter. Three-pointer. Splash. The crowd erupted again. This time for Team Blue. The battle was on. For the next 30 minutes, the two teams went at each other with an intensity that shocked everyone watching. This wasn't going through the motions. This wasn't a casual exhibition. This was real competition at the highest level. Caitlin was unconscious from beyond the arc logo 3 after logo 3, each one drawing gasps from the crowd. The range was absurd. The confidence was unshakable. She was playing like she had something to prove, which, despite everything that had happened, she still felt she did. Paige was orchestrating the offense with surgical precision, finding gaps in the defense, setting up teammates for easy buckets, playing the kind of unselfish basketball that wins championships. And Angel was dominating the paint. Offensive rebounds, physical defense, the kind of blue-collar work that doesn't always show up in highlights, but absolutely shows up in winning. But here's what made this scrimmage different from day 3. Despite the intense competition, despite the personal battles, despite everything that was at stake, the players were having fun. You could see it in their body language. The trash talk was playful, not hostile. The celebrations were joyous, not pointed. When someone made an incredible play, players on both teams acknowledged it. This was basketball at its purest. Competition without animosity. Intensity without toxicity. Exactly what the coaches had been hoping for. Midway through the scrimmage, something remarkable happened. Caitlin hit another deep three, her sixth of the game, and the crowd went absolutely insane. The noise was deafening. The energy was through the roof. And Angel Reese, the player guarding the opposite team, the player who had been at the center of so many debates about rivalry and conflict, she nodded, just a small nod, barely perceptible, but the cameras caught it. She was acknowledging greatness, giving respect where it was due, not because she had to, because she chose to. The internet would analyze that nod for weeks, debate its meaning, read into it things that may or may not have been there. But in that moment, it was simple, one competitor recognizing another. The scrimmage ended with Team White winning by 6 points. But nobody really cared about the final score. What mattered was what everyone had witnessed. The three co-captains met at center court after the final whistle. The cameras zoomed in. The crowd quieted, sensing something important was about to happen. Caitlin extended her hand to Angel first. They shook, firmly, with respect. Then Paige joined them. The three players stood together, hands clasped, facing the crowd. The roar that followed was unlike anything women's basketball had ever experienced. The head coach watched from the sideline, tears forming in her eyes. She had been involved in the sport for over 30 years, had seen countless teams, countless players, countless moments. But this was different. This was history. The press conference afterward was standing room only. Every major outlet was represented. The questions came rapid fire. Caitlin, after everything that happened this week, how does it feel to be named co-captain alongside players you're supposedly in conflict with? Caitlin leaned into the microphone. There was never conflict. There was competition. Those are different things. Angel and Paige pushed me to be better. I hope I do the same for them. That's what teammates do. Angel, the trade rumors have dominated headlines. Can you address your commitment to Team USA? Angel didn't hesitate. I'm here. I'm committed. I'm ready to help this team win gold. Everything else is noise. Paige, you've been through serious injuries. What does it mean to be healthy and competing at this level again? Paige smiled. It means everything. But honestly, right now I'm just grateful to be part of this team. What's happening here is special. I don't want to miss a single moment of it. The questions continued for another 30 minutes, but the narrative had already been written. Team USA wasn't fractured. Team USA was united, and God help anyone who had to play against them. The next few weeks were a blur of preparation, training sessions, strategy meetings, team bonding activities. The three co-captains led by example, setting the tone for everyone else to follow. When the Olympics finally arrived, Team USA was ready. They dominated the group stage, won every game by double digits. The combination of Caitlin's shooting, Paige's playmaking, and Angel's interior presence was unstoppable. The knockout rounds were tighter, real competition. But whenever things got difficult, the leadership council stepped up, made the plays that mattered, held the team together when pressure mounted. The gold medal game came down to the final minutes. Team USA led by 3 with 90 seconds remaining. The opponent had the ball, looking to tie. The defensive play that sealed the victory, it came from Angel Reese. She rotated perfectly, contested a three-point attempt, and secured the rebound. The opponent was forced to foul. Free throws sealed it. When the final buzzer sounded, the celebration was euphoric. Gold medals draped around necks. National anthem playing. Tears streaming down faces. Caitlin, Paige, and Angel stood together on the podium. The three players who had been at the center of so much controversy. The three players who had chosen unity over division. They had done it. And as they raised their medals toward the crowd, everyone watching understood something profound. The story of this team hadn't been about rivalry. It had been about redemption. About what happens when talented people choose to build each other up instead of tearing each other down. About the power of leadership, forgiveness, and shared purpose. Day 3 of that training camp had nearly broken Team USA, but it had also made them. Because without that crisis, there would have been no transformation, Without that conflict, there would have been no unity. Without that moment when everything seemed lost, there would have been no story worth telling. And now, standing on that Olympic podium, gold medals gleaming in the light, the three co-captains knew something that would stay with them forever. They hadn't just won a championship. They had changed the game.